1 minute, please. Time, thank you. Would you all please put down your pens and bring your papers to the front of the room? Thank you. Well done. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry, you're too late. Gave you plenty of warnings about time. You failed. Sorry.
Excuse me, do you know who I am?
I have absolutely no idea.
Good.
Good day, welcome to The Hub. I'm your host, Joel Aaron, sitting down with Dave Pusey, who is the director of the Center for an Educated Georgia, in Georgia, ironically. And we had an issue just last week. School Choice Week went on nationwide, National School Choice Week. Here in Georgia, we had several events. The School Choice Week celebration and rally at the Capitol that started out the week on Tuesday. Then on Thursday, we held a showing of a film and had a panel discussion that Dave was on about school choice. What is it? Educational reform. What is educational choice? All these different kind of things. So I wanted to bring Dave on to talk about it a bit. And Dave, I mean, the numbers are pretty staggering. First of all, you've got these movies now that have come out, like Waiting for Superman, highly acclaimed, The Cartel, documentary film that talks about education and that type of thing. And they're saying that the numbers are, we invest more than any industrialized nation in the world in education, and yet we have fast dropping rates, math and science scores, and reading scores, the worst in the world, in the industrialized world in reading, and yet we put this kind of money in it. And so, I mean, I just have to ask, starting out, why are you so opposed to giving every child the education they expect to receive?
I'm absolutely not opposed to every child getting the education that they deserve.
Deserve? Ah,
yeah,
part-lancing words
see,
here.
and they do deserve it. These kids, they are given a certain lot in life, and we owe it to them to give them an education that they deserve so they can make their own life.
But their expectations increasingly are that education should suck, and it does. So we're meeting their expectations.
Theoretically, right? I mean, American education shouldn't, to use your word, suck. I mean, if we are truly believe in American exceptionalism, which I think a lot of folks do, we need to be the best in the world. There's no reason that we shouldn't be the best in the world.
And I understand your rhetoric, but I am a wise and shrewd interviewer, so I don't fall for the rhetoric. So why do you hate teachers?
I don't.
Do you hate teachers?
I do not hate teachers.
You do not hate teachers?
My mother-in-law, who I adore, is a teacher. This is not, this is about kids.
Did you have a lunchbox as a kid?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Thundercats.
Thundercats, really?
Absolutely.
Okay. Why, every Saturday, Thundercats, you were a Thundercats fan?
Yeah, 8 o'clock in the morning.
Did yours have a divider, kind of?
No, just a pretty standard thermos and, sandwich compartment.
Cool. Yeah, because I've got one here that came from my attic. This is something I knew and loved.
Old school.
The Muppet Show.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just trying to, as an investigative reporter, I want to go deep. I'm trying to dig deep into your psyche and how much knowledge do you have, deep knowledge about education, public education. Did you know your lunch lady?
I can't remember her name. I can see the face though. It kind of haunts me at night sometimes.
No, okay. I mean, so she is stereotypical.
Yeah.
Okay.
The angle I come from is I am the guy that went to public school, K through 16, if you will, going to Georgia Tech, public college, public education all the way through.
Okay.
So I know a little bit about how the system works.
So you've been on the inside.
Yeah,
you've seen it.
Been on the inside, if you will. Yeah,
the ugly underbelly. Okay, so why? And I've got to ask, why do you insist that education involves learning when testing works so well?
Fascinating concept, I know. I mean, look, we understand the need to measure how kids are doing, but I think every teacher would agree that when you put all of the insistence on a test on a single day, it puts lots of pressure, which is, in a way it's good that the kids realize that this is what the real world is like, but you're cutting out important learning pieces. And there are some parents that maybe they think that, the testing is what we need to do is right for their kids. Others may take a more holistic look. That's why I'm for school choice. I want the parents to choose what kind of testing environments they're in, what kind of curriculum environments they're in, all that kind of good stuff.
Okay. The just recently, the Professional Association of Georgia Educators responded to your rally that was held last week in Georgia, and they were asked what the state voucher program would do, expanding state voucher program in Georgia would do, and they said it would take money away from public schools. It would just take money away from schools that's being used to help students, and I have to wonder. They said it was starving funding. Why are you against every child having a quantity education?
A quantity education. I'm for every child getting a quality education. Forget a quantity education. Look, their argument comes from the perspective that it's all a zero-sum game, that all money in education should go to the public school system. I mean, I dig it. I understand their point of view, but I'm looking at it from a soon-to-be parent perspective. I'm looking at it from the kid's perspective. I care about what's good for the kids. I do not care about what's good for a system.
So what's the what's the economic impact? Because a lot of people put this on the table now.
Right.
Because Georgia's similar to a lot of other states around the country that are facing major budget gaps.
Right.
You say it has a positive impact on the economy.
Look, here's what you call them voucher programs, scholarship programs. I call them opportunity scholarships because they really are providing opportunity for kids. Here's the numbers. In the state of Georgia, we have a special needs scholarship program. It is a voucher. It's an opportunity scholarship program. It uses the state portion of education funds, which means that child is taking that scholarship to go to a private school, but then all this money, this local tax money, is left behind in school districts. So these school districts actually have more money to work with fewer kids to educate.
And why is that not good for kids? Because you can give so much more quality education when you're just back up the truck, dumping the dollars.
Sure. I mean, it's not always the case. I mean, look, I think that we would all recognize that if you give $1,000 education per child, it's probably not going to be great. But we did a study last year that looked at graduation rates and spending, and the graph it's striking, Joel. I mean, over the last 30 years, public education spending has doubled. And graduation rates have dropped in some parts of the state. Well, over the past couple of years, when graduation rates have actually risen in the state as a whole, spending has dropped. There's no correlation between the two. So that tells me that by just dumping more money into public education, I mean, it's great that they have the little extra dollars or whatever. But by dumping more money into public education and not fixing the system, we're missing an opportunity.
Well, you keep saying public education, versus
sure.
private education.
Right.
Charter schools, for example.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, explain the differences, because if it's not taking money away from the public school, to create a charter school, then why are people so opposed to it and saying it is taking money away? The argument, I mean, people just have a misunderstanding about the different types of...
I think we're looking at different paradigms here, and we keep talking about schools, public schools, private schools, and I'm just as guilty as anyone for kind of talking that and speaking that paradigm. But, I mean, are we in the business of funding schools? Are we in the business of educating kids? And that's just the question we have to ask ourselves. I tend to come from the perspective that we're in the business of educating kids. On the charter school issue, it's not taking funding away from public education, because charter schools are public education. They are public schools.
Okay, so there's really no difference between the two. It's the same sort of thing.
So the argument that we're having with charter schools is, are we going to send money in children and mandate that children go to schools that are controlled by a local board of education, or are we going to allow them to go to schools that are run by parents, that are run by other educational professionals, to give them an education that fits their needs? So
let's play a numbers game.
Sure.
Assign a number to a child. Average cost of educating a child in Georgia, say, in the public system versus private school or whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, it's about $9,000.
Okay.
In the public system. I found through
the private system, what's
in the private system, I found in my research that despite some schools that have $22,000 tuitions and $30,000 tuitions, and that's what you really see on the news, I found that it's really closer to about $7,000.
Okay. Do you feel guilty reducing a child to a number?
I do feel guilty a little bit reducing a child to a number, but it's
you're
stark
okay
economic realities.
Okay, gotcha.
But here's the thing: when there's one piece of this when you look at public education spending versus private education spending, and it's this. we look at usually operational spending, and so that's spending money on teachers and how much it costs to actually educate a kid. $9,000 is the number for the public schools on that kind of stuff. The private school number actually includes capital costs, like the building.
Yeah, and yet they can and they still do it for like $6,000-7,000.
Right.
And the same with the charter school. I guess it's lower
Right.
too.
Yeah.
Why are charter schools and private schools so content to spend so much less on children?
Because they can get it done cheaper. Why spend more money when you can get it done
Aren't they?
cheaper?
Yeah. Okay.
You know.
Well, I can see your point, but I think you're very Weasley like that. So that and the argument comes from, I guess, from folks that would disagree with you,
Sure.
is that aren't children the best investment one can possibly make in the future? So there's really no limit to what one should be willing to invest for the future of.
Well, there's also
children.
you have to be a good steward of taxpayer money as part of this. I mean, we want to make sure that we're getting a good return.
Where does
on
the money
investment.
go?
Where does the money go?
So I'm just saying,
Yeah.
where does the money go if the money's not going to the kids? Where's the?
It's usually administrative costs. I mean, we look at some systems, especially in South Georgia, that have 1,500 kids, 1,600 kids, and you have superintendents getting paid $160,000.
Wow. And that's an
Administrative-
average, or that's just
That's
across the
one
board?
particular system that I'm not going to name.
Okay.
And you can actually go to educatedgeorgia.org and find that.
Okay,
data
I will
there.
do that. So I'm going to check your numbers.
Please do.
I really will.
Please do. But there's a lot in administrative costs. There is a lot of overhead. I think if you live in the Metro Atlanta area, you see assistant superintendents for this, and deputy assistant superintendents for that. And it's, they have a right to make a buck, but at the same time, are we really getting what we're paying for?
Okay.
And my final metric when I evaluate something is how kids are doing academically, and I don't think we're getting what we're paying for.
Last question: peanut butter or pimento cheese?
Depends on where I am. I tell you, the Masters. If you ever go to the Masters golf tournament,
Yeah.
pimento cheese sandwich, fantastic. That said, had a beautiful peanut butter and jelly sandwich this afternoon. I could go either way.
Yeah.
I could
well,
go either way.
if it's good enough for the yuppies, it's good enough for me
Amen.
because I'm a yuppie. We'll see you tomorrow on the Hub.